Good morning, everyone. I'm going to introduce Mr. Fahad Tanveer here. Good morning, sir. I hope you are well. Fahad Tanveer is the CEO and co-founder at EdCasa. EdCasa is Pakistan's leading education technology company. Fahad is an alumnus of Dams and Harvard University. He is a passionate educator, having worked in the education space in Pakistan and the United States. He has also held commercial roles in management, marketing, brands, and sales at Procter & Gamble, ICI, Telenor, and Nestle. Assalamualaikum, Sir Fahad. You may continue now.
Walaikum salam. I hope you guys can hear me. Those who are in present and also those who are online. So thank you for that kind introduction, and let me know when we're ready to start and we can start.
Yes, sir, you may start. Everyone can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Great. So thank you for that introduction. And my topic for today, if you can see my screen, is how to use EdTech tools to improve productivity and enhance learning outcomes, right? So that's the role as educators, is ultimately to enhance learning outcomes for students. But at the same time, we are cognizant of the fact that, productivity is very challenging because of the fact that there's a lot of workload on teachers and school administrators already. So any tool that comes into this space must reduce the workload or improve productivity, and at the same time enhance learning outcomes. So those are the two key metrics that any sort of school administrator or teacher or anybody involved in education should evaluate an EdTech tool. Is it really going to do this? And if it's not going to do this, then it may not be the best intrusion or sort of intervention into your education space, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about it and help you qualify and understand what I think of when I'm building these tools for educators, and what we try to solve, because we work very closely with educators, students, to build things that they're actually going to use and it's going to help them do better in life. So when we look at what is education technology, right? Like, what is this EdTech? We keep talking about it. We hear great stuff in the news, companies raising money, becoming unicorns around the world. But what is EdTech, right? Like, if you fundamentally bring it down, it's the merger of education and technology, right? So we're looking at what is education. It's the process of really systemic instruction fundamentally, right? You're looking at people learning in a systemic process. And then technology is anything, that has a scientific application, right, for a practical purpose. So anything that has, the role of science for practical purpose to improve productivity or enhance productivity in any way possible, that's technology, right? So it's a very simple merger of the two. What you see here, highlighted, is that you want to give systemic instruction to students.
Sorry, hello.
Yeah. Yes,
sorry to interrupt. I'm just saying that we've given the participants the right to talk so that they can, ask you things if they want to. I hope that's
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Are they going to do that in chat, or are they able to talk to me? Either way is fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. So I've got the chat open as well. So just in case you guys have any questions. So coming back to systemic instruction, right? Education is fundamentally systemic instruction, a means to an end, with an application of science for practical purpose, right? So for practical purposes, what we mean is that what is the most efficient way to get this information to students, help them understand it in a systemic way, and come out with a certain level of understanding, right? So if education technology should be able to practically enhance that process, right? It's not just a theoretical, I would say, something, an airy idea. It's something that should immediately start making a practical implication on those things, right? And that is a fundamentally education technology. So when we look at a tool that claims to be education technology, we should look at it, okay, is it going to help me improve the systemic instruction of my pupil or my student or my school? And is it going to, practically, using scientific knowledge or understanding, practically make a difference, right? If it doesn't practically make a difference, then it's not perhaps technology. It is education, but it's still not technology. And if it's great at making a difference, but it takes away from systemic instruction, then it's not really education. It's more of a technology tool. It has to be both to be EdTech. All right, so these are all types of education technologies, and these are great examples of what I'm talking about, right? So calculator helps you calculate faster, and it's a piece of technology because of that. It's efficient in providing efficiency in the process, and it helps students calculate even more complex mathematical things, right? So it's a tool for education technology. So is televisions, so is the pencil. The desk that we sit on in school, it was designed for that purpose, to improve the practical dissemination of systemic knowledge, right? Because you sit in a certain way and you sit in a comfortable position and you have your books open in front of you. All these things are education technology over the years coming through. So it's not just an application or an LMS system that just suddenly come about and it's education technology. Education has kept including technology with its date and time over hundreds of years. We are at a point where we can absolutely accelerate that and make that accessible to unprecedented levels compared to our past. So that's why it's becoming so exciting. I think people were very excited when the calculator was made. People were excited when the television came out, or when even the school desk was fundamentally designed and you didn't have to sit on the floor. Those things have all improved learning outcomes and improved systemic dissemination of knowledge. So let's talk about productivity, right? Like when we say, okay, it's going to enhance productivity, what are we really talking about? So generally, the perception of productivity in education, the layman's understanding of education productivity is how much material can a teacher disseminate, right? How much can you teach over a given period of time to the average classroom, right? Like, so if you look at how much material, हमेशा हम ये बात करते हैं कि how much syllabus has been covered, how much material has been covered, how much of the curriculum has been covered over a period of time. And that's been also a pressing agenda item during COVID, because a lot of teachers and instructors were unable to achieve those goals because they were set in stone, so to speak, because of school closures, right? So it was a huge stress factor. How are we going to cover all this material over the same academic year or a shorter academic year that students have missed out, and make sure that the average student, which is the number of students dividing the whole sort of material that you're providing, so that we have a productive learning experience. Well, this is not productivity in education. This is the perhaps the lowest form of productivity that we can aspire to in education. And I'm going to give you a very different perspective on this, which some of you might believe in actually already. So when we talk of productivity at EDCASA or in education, we look at this as the basic, smallest sort of learning block, in Bloom's taxonomy of education, right? So this is just remembering, right? Like material disseminated, hope you remember it, show up on an exam and regurgitate it, right? So this has been our case for decades, or if not hundreds of years, of what we call as efficient education, right? And few schools and few teachers, move up to understanding, and even rarer is applying. And I have yet to see high school level pay creating, evaluating, or even doing anything that is remotely analyzing at a deeper level of what students are learning, and teachers actually working towards making that possible. And it's not just Pakistan, it's around the world. The focus still remains on assessment, and assessments are basically focused on remembering. Some are on understanding, but it doesn't go much higher than that, for most people. So this is measured over a period of time. Once again, how much time can you do this? In 12 years, are you a high school graduate? In 1 year, are you going to go to the next grade level? So this is fairly archaic, right? And it's fairly simple. Like with today's technology, you should be moving higher up in this taxonomy, right? Like as opposed to still being stuck at the bottom. And that's exactly what EdTech should unlock. So I give this example a lot of a paper plane to teach physics, right? And this is, I was lucky enough to have a teacher who used this. So way back before internet and everything was around, and I was in high school, I had a science teacher, Mr. Freeman. He was an American, and he had come in, and he wouldn't teach us things in science through our textbook. He said, textbook is your problem. You read it whenever you want to. You don't want to read it, it's up to you. I want all of you in the class to make a paper airplane. And the person who has the plane flying furthest away in front of the whole school and has the most airtime wins. Go read any book you want. Use your own scientific book if you want to understand the principles of physics and aerodynamics and stuff. Come to me if you have any questions. But I want to reward an A grade to the student whose airplane flies the farthest and stays in the air the longest. right? That's the only two measures of success. And I believe when it was class 7, I had read about, for this assignment alone, 50 books on physics, which were way beyond my grade level, just to understand the dynamics of airflow and pressure and heat and aerodynamic design and wing surface area. At grade 6, I was reading those books. I was going to the library and checking them out to make that paper plane to get an A. Now, he could have very easily given us a quiz on the topics inside the textbook for remembering, or he could have asked for us to think about, and analyze a couple of areas and write our opinions in some sort of short answer or long answer questions. But this was moving up to applying, right? Like this was moving up to applying, and he was doing it very deliberately for us to apply those concepts, right? And after applying, at some point when we were in standing in a line in our school's backyard throwing these airplanes, we were also analyzing each other's planes. Hey, why is your plane going further? What did you do? What's your wing design like? And then evaluating each other's work, and then trying to improve it by learning from each other. So I think it was, without even technology in the traditional sense of understanding computers and internet and apps and stuff, a lot of it is applicable because you're trying to improve the learning experience, right? Learning outcomes were dramatically different compared to the average guy at that point who was studying the same textbook. We understood aerodynamics and pressure and the physics of flying way better in grade 6 than the average kid in school. So I'm just giving you one example, and this was brilliance of one teacher. But coming back to the systemic aspect of it. So systemic is there, but where's the application and the practical purpose, right? So that's something that we generally go amiss in our practice, and that's where technology can come in, right? So if you were to make it into an equation, right, and the idea is to reduce teacher workload as well, you want to make sure that all the wasteful activities, such as classroom and homework and stuff, which are beyond the need of the child's learning, are eliminated through technology, right? Like, so if we can find a more efficient way and reduce the wasteful activities, you will end up with systemic instruction that is more, in line with the higher aspirations of learning. And the whole point of education technology is to remove wasteful activities from the child's learning processes, as well as from the teacher's teaching practices. If they are unable to, if this is an add-on to their traditional practices, it's not really helping, right? Like if you have to teach the traditional way, you have to do the quizzes and the homeworks and grade them and do it all and then you have to put it all inside an LMS, and then that system generates a report. It's additional work, right? You're not going to fall in love with that technology. But imagine if technology could give you deep insight about your students, right? Like which student is struggling exactly at which concept, and what are they struggling with? What kind of learner are they? Like, are they a visual learner? Are they an auditory learner? Are they somebody who enjoys reading? And then you could tailor your teaching and your education delivery to that student's needs, and that'd be beautiful, right? And that's exactly where education technology must intervene, right? So I'll give you a couple of examples. One that is of our own at EDCASA, and another one which comes from globally, which is Bridge International Academies, right? So this is a very specific example. So we'll start with Bridge. And Bridge, what they did was they realized that lesson planning is a huge barrier to actual teacher performance in the classroom. They have good intentions. They're the hardest working people, but their planning varies a lot across schools, right? So they did a very specific intervention to improve lesson planning, and which was basically plan it for the teacher and put it on a very simple black and white tablet and give it to the teacher. So you have standardized lesson plans, and they are automated, calendar managed for the teacher. So if they come into the class, they are not spending hours planning their lesson. They are more concerned about delivering that lesson to students and becoming more engaging instructors, rather than spending hours and nights planning each lesson and then coming back and delivering something which is fairly ordinary on the average sense. There's some brilliant people in there, but some not so brilliant. And they use the brilliant instructors to help build this lesson planning tool, so that the teachers who were struggling with lesson planning had that augmentation in their teaching experience, right? So it seems simplistic, right? Like anybody should do this, but making this codified on a very simple tablet, they were able to disseminate it across thousands of schools across multiple countries, whether it's in India or it's in Kenya or it's in any other part of the world where there are Bridge International Academies. they all have the same lesson plans, right? And they're updated and augmented based on best practices. And the teachers are not planning their lessons to the level that they had to before prior to this, right? And they were spending hours of their own time. So, you have your work hours, but they were spending hours after that preparing these lesson plans, and to what avail, right? At the end of the day, some were good, some were not, and the learning outcomes were extremely variable. This helped streamline that very specific intervention, helped streamline the lesson planning, right? So it seems simplistic, but somebody has to take an initiative. And this is just one example of technology actually helping improve learning outcomes, but also reducing the workload for teachers. Secondly, let's look at EdCasa, right? So we teach online live classes in over 40 campuses that are in our network. And it's the same instructor teaching the student body in 40 campuses across the country. So one, it seemingly puts a lot of pressure on that one instructor, but it allows for tremendous efficiency in delivering a systemic learning experience to students across the country, where finding teachers is very hard. So the way we thought about it was that we need to split instruction and classroom management into two separate specialities. So for classroom management, you definitely need a local person inside the room to manage the classroom, the discipline, to make sure assignments are done, to make sure that kids are following along, they're asking questions, and generally a classroom is well managed. But the specialization of instructing on a special subject like physics, chemistry, biology is not locally available equally everywhere. And we in Lahore are in an advantageous position to find those instructors quite easily and give them a good remuneration and allow them to broadcast themselves on the teaching side to 40 plus schools where girls and boys were unable to even find an instructor, let alone a quality instructor on that matter, right? So we split up instruction and classroom management initially into two specialities, and we took over instruction for the school. We said we will teach live every day, broadcast into your classroom. It's a two-way broadcast where students are able to also ask questions to the teacher, and the teacher answers live during the sessions. But the classroom management is done by a generalist or not a subject specialist in the classroom who has a closer bond with the students in terms of helping them go along faster. You'd be amazed at the impact. I just want to share the result of a recent exam from Muzaffargarh. The center, the picture that you see, one of my co-founders, Anam, is in it. This was a Silai Kadhai center, and we turned it into a science high school for metric. One of the girls here, she had returned to school after 4 years. She was out of school and she had come to the Silai Kadhai center, which we had converted, with the ambition to study science. And her result is 1,085 out of 1,100 this year, and she's gun-ho to become a doctor. Imagine the impact that technology can create. This girl, let alone forget going to science or good school, she didn't even have a school in near her village for girls, at high school level to study science. There is not a single person in that area who is qualified to teach science or has even passed themselves a metric science or an FSC exam. And this girl has now scored 1,085. We've been teaching them for over a year with Idara Talim Wagai, and amazing results. The NGO working on ground was doing the classroom management. We were doing the instruction, and now we do this for 40 classrooms across the country, and we're scaling that. This is just one of our products. So it helps reduce the workload and the pressure for the schools and administration and the teachers, but at the same time, it enhances learning outcomes. And that's the beauty of education technology. If we can do that, we can turn things around in our country and around the world. So this was just a couple of examples, that hopefully inspire you to think of technology from a different perspective. So the lesson we want to walk away is that use technology to eliminate tasks that you cannot do or are unable to do well in your classroom, right? First, we need to be accepting of the fact that some things we can do well and some things we can't. And we need to look for solutions that are either technology, and technology can be anything, to drive enhanced learning outcomes, right? So if it's better books, if it's a better pen or pencil to write, these are all part of technology, improve and enhance learning outcomes. But anything that helps you reduce or eliminate things that we can't do well and pass it on to people who can do it well, that's beautiful intervention, right? And that's where the learning outcomes will become enhanced. Very quickly, I'll just go through, how EdTech in the sense, which is a modern sense, allows for learning outcomes to improve. So first of all, it does one thing, which is a faster feedback loop, right? So kids generally get feedback through formative assessments or summative assessments at some time period. Well, with technology, you can do it much faster. You can, like if you use our app or if you use any assessment app, you can run quizzes. Like Kahoot is a great example of that. I'll talk about it a little bit later. It allows teachers to get a faster feedback loop in a really fun way from kids and give them feedback more frequently so they can improve. Secondly, technology is always available. In an app always is available to a student if they have a smartphone, right? If they have a website, it's available to them. You are not going to be 24 hours available as a teacher or as a school to the child, but technology can be. So it's a complementary relationship. When the child leaves their campus, they always have a teacher or an instructor with them with the use of technology to reinforce those concepts. So you can assign, say on Edcasa, a topic to your student and say, I've taught you this in class. 30 kids, we've discussed this, we had a good session, but just been 45 minutes. You can go and watch Edcasa's video on this 100 times, and it'll become clear how you're going to be assessed and how this concept is to be understood. And tomorrow when we come back and we do a quiz, you're going to be finding it quite easy. So so the faster feedback loop and being always available enhances the learning outcomes. It's not competing with schools and teachers. It's supposed to enhance the learning outcomes working together, right? And that's the key thing to understand. If it's there to just make it into a black and white situation where we just replace all things that we have learned and developed in education over time, it's not really an EdTech tool. An EdTech tool's job is to enhance the learning experience and enhance everyone's role in the process. So just again, I'll give you a couple examples, one of our own and one of Kahoot. So Kahoot is I'm sure some of you might know of it, is a unicorn now owned by Disney. It basically allows students to do quizzes and allows teachers to make quizzes and share them across multiple schools and peers, right? So you can make a quiz on any topic or any subject that you make, and you can push it along to your students and turn it into a fun gaming experience. But it allows you to get real data on how well your class has understood, your students have understood a certain concept. And if your quiz is very good at assessing that, you can pass it on to other teachers across the world and say, check out my quiz on thermodynamics, or check out my quiz on what is the structure of a cell. And it really has assessed students really well, and it's allowed me to intervene really well, and other people can benefit from that assessment tool. So it's a very specific intervention in the assessment space, reduces the workload for teachers, at the same time gives a faster feedback loop to students. And this quiz doesn't have to happen in classrooms. It can happen at home. You just push it along and you tell kids, hey, before dinner, just do this 10 minutes quiz and I'll get the data for tomorrow, right? So it's technology really working with the teachers and the schools to improve and enhance learning outcomes. Even if they've gone a step further, you can now sell your quizzes to other teachers, right, and make a little bit of money out of it as a teacher. So they've realized that teachers are generally not the highest compensated profession in any part of the world. So give them an opportunity to monetize the skill beyond the classroom, and that'll help in other ways as well. So Kahoot is a great example of what I was talking about: faster feedback loop, of being available 24 hours, reducing workload for teachers and school administration, and actually improving learning outcomes as a result. Same thing with Edcasa, a different approach, but we help kids prepare for their metric and intermediate exams with our app. Every textbook that is published in Pakistan for the 22 examination boards, we have content that is aligned topic by topic for each of hey, somebody uses Kahoot already. Aksa is mentioning. So fantastic. If you're already using it, you're way ahead of the curve. Nobody's even heard of it in many places of Pakistan. So good, kudos to you for trying to implement great technology tools, improving your learning outcomes in school. So Edcasa does something similar, right? So we had realized that 22 examination boards, different levels of teachers, different schools, different tuitions and academies. How can we make it easy for kids to prepare on a 24-hour basis? Be always available, provide them quality instruction so they can do well on these exams, right? Like our number one mission as a company is student success. So anything we can do to make students, do better on their exams, which is the measure of success today in our country, we'll help them do that, right? And we turn it into a fun, competitive way. You can find out where you stand before the exam in your board by taking all these assessments and quizzes and competing on our leaderboard. And also at a national level, who's the smartest physics kids? We have over 200,000 kids, using our app, and it's exciting to see, like, there are kids from the most remote parts of the country that are ridiculously smart. They're doing really well. We talk to them, when we reach out to them, How are they learning on this? They're using the app for over 10 hours a day. That is crazy, right? Like they don't have a school or a college that is relevant in their area, like, Dharki or, Bannu. But, they're like, hey, we've never seen teachers like this. We've never seen or had anybody talk like this to us. And, we keep hunting for stuff online, but your app just consolidates everything for us, saves us time, saves our family money. And, our teachers are impressed that, we understand these things really well. So once again, technology coming in to give feedback, faster feedback loop, always being available, enhancing learning outcomes ultimately because of that, and helping and augmenting the learning experience in the classroom. We're here to support the teacher, right? Whatever you teach in the 45-minute lecture that you teach in the classroom, here comes Edcasa, here comes Kahoot to amplify that learning experience. So when your kid comes back, they're even stronger. And that's your credit to claim, right? These are your students. So this is a couple of, once again, technology interventions that are helping real kids, one in Pakistan and one around the world. And apparently Kahoot is also being used in Pakistan, which is fantastic news. So lesson number 2, use technology to enhance the learning experience by using tools to give students quicker and more individualized feedback. Feedback is critical to helping them improve, right? If we do formative assessment on a monthly or a quarterly basis, it's too infrequent. Even on a weekly basis, it's too infrequent. Why can't they take 10 quizzes whenever they want, right? To understand whether they get it or not. Technology should be able to unlock that for them. So help them take, as much feedback as possible, give them the confidence to address any topic or any concept that they have learned, because the more they understand that they don't understand, they can go back and relearn. And that's the beauty of technology that can allow it to do that. Second, lesson number 3, use technology to support students outside the classroom, because classroom has finite, limited time. Even if you go to tuition or have a tutor, it's not going to be more than an hour or 30 minutes to augment what you've already learned in the classroom, right? And you're spending up to 9 p.m. at night, the child is in tuition centers and with tutors. It's an inefficient way. I'm not saying it's something's wrong with it, but I think it's a very inefficient way in today's world. It was something that was useful 30 years ago, but I think there are more efficient ways to do that, to support the student outside the classroom, making it easier for them to learn, understand, and apply, and ultimately analyze the world around them, right? So when they study physics and they see a plane fly, they should be able to see and say, oh, that flap wasn't open properly, and the pressure probably wasn't created well enough for it to lift at that angle, right? And that's the kind of conversations we were having in class 6 because of one teacher forcing us to make a paper airplane and competing us with each other. And we didn't even have the internet at that time. We used to have that CD of Encarta and a library to go to learn. So imagine what is possible with your students today, right? So we want to push them and support them outside the classroom as well, not just in the classroom. And that's where technology must intervene to help them have an enhanced learning experience. So I'd wrap it up here. Hopefully I've spent my 30 minutes well to cover it up. But if you guys have any questions, any thoughts, anything you agree or disagree with, I'd be happy to address it and talk to you guys about it.
Thank you, Sir Fahad, for your presentation.
You're welcome. I hope I was able to provide something useful to your audience. And I hope if they have any questions, if they can feel free to reach out to me or about any of the things that we talked about.
Thank you. That sounds good. Ms. Guru has a question. I think, Ms. Guru, could you please type it on the chat? We're not able to hear you for some reason.
Can you not hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Hi. It's not a question, but just a comment about, sir, you know what you mentioned about the way you learned like about paper planes and physics. And I think that's just so brilliant because I really wish like back in the day, our teachers had kind of taught us that way, because it's such a practical way to kind of, get kids to really do like a hands-on learning with that particular activity. So I
Mhm.
think that's really, really brilliant. So just wanted to comment on that.
Yeah, it's no credit to me. It's a credit to a teacher in Pakistan. He was an American teacher. I was at an American school, and it's credit to the teacher, right? Like he spent the time thinking about how can I help my students really understand how planes fly, right? Like reading a chapter on aerodynamics is not going to make them anything special. And there was just thought, and understanding that how do I take someone to that level? So anybody can do this. I'm just saying that it's just not the way we've been doing things traditionally. And if given the right thought and the right application, we can do this for our kids anywhere in the world. Paper is available in the remotest parts of this country, right? Why can't we use it?
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
He is.
Okay, thank you, Fahad. I think the session has come to an end, and I'm really sorry about the technical glitch, but I hope everybody enjoyed it.
No problem at all. I hope. I was
We
just
will
hoping
be
that everybody
sharing the recording with everyone, so hopefully the ones who are not able to log in will be able to watch it also.
Fantastic. I hope it's helpful, and please let them know. Feel free to reach out to me on my email or LinkedIn anytime if I can do anything to add value to their students and their schools.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.